Cool. I'm fucking stoked for this, honestly, for selfish reasons, because I would like to know it for myself. This is knowledge that I kind of need drilled into my head sometimes, because it's kind of a new thing for me personally. But basically, what we're going to go over in this webinar is Nathan is going to brain dump all of his knowledge about hiring, best practices, why to hire, when to hire, how much you expect to pay to hire, and basically school us on the process of hiring in general, A to Z. So I'm really stoked to kind of pick Nathan's brain. And Nathan and I had a little chat before this. He's an awesome dude. I just found out that he wrote a book, Free Up Your Business, which is very cool. So definitely used to delivering content and delivering value. So yeah, we're just going to jump right in. And then at the end, Nathan and I have a little special gift to share with you guys, and a little extra value and place where you could learn more about this stuff and continue to go on your hiring journey and scale your business. So let's kick it off. Nathan, you want to do a quick intro of yourself?
Yeah, and just for anyone that's from my community that's watching, definitely check out what Chris has going on. A lot of you are either starting Amazon businesses or you're full flown into it right now. Judolaunch has a lot of really cool things to complement the people that you're hiring with us. So that's awesome. And thanks again for having me. I'm really excited for this. So
solid. Thanks for the shout out, dude.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been selling on Amazon for over 8 years. I've sold over $30 million online. I've had an office. I've had remote workers. I've had remote US and non-US. I've been hiring for a while, and I've used every marketplace out there. So I have a lot of hiring experience. I know a lot of what works, and more importantly, I know a lot of what doesn't work. And I always just wanted a better, faster way. And that's how I came up with the idea of the Free Up Marketplace, where we pre-vet people, take the top 1% and make them available to clients quickly. Mostly Amazon sellers, e-commerce businesses. We've expanded beyond that, but that's really how it started. But even though we can get you good people fast, it doesn't do you a lot of good if you don't know what to do with them afterwards. So we try to provide a lot of content, a lot of help to help people along the way, whether you're hiring someone for the first time, maybe you've made bad hires in the past and you're scared to get back into it, or maybe you're just super crazy busy and you need to get A players who can just come in and hit the ball rolling right from the beginning, because time is money. So that's really what we're going to cover today, all focused around Amazon e-commerce. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Sweet, man. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks again for that shout out. Love that. So I think before we jump into the nitty gritties of how to hire, how much to pay, and all those details, I think we should start off with the problem itself and talk about, why this is worth spending time on. Like, I remember myself, being an Amazon seller, which I started about 3 years ago, still am. Before I made my first hire, I remember thinking, man, this is like a distraction. I have all these things to worry about: vendors, logistics, my next order, quality control, customer service. And now I'm reading CVs and doing interviews with people that don't seem like a good match. And I was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, and that's really why I started Free Up. I went from doing all the things that I wanted to be doing, which was marketing, sales, expansion, getting new suppliers. And instead, I found myself doing 6 to 8 hours a day of interviews. And one day I threw something against the wall and I told my business partner, Connor, I can't do this anymore. There just has to be a better way. And that's really how we came up with Free Up, based on our own needs. But yeah, there's really 2 ways to hire. And keeping in mind, you have to hire for your business. For those of you out there that think you can do it solo forever, it's not possible. You'll hit some ceiling at some point and you'll take a huge step backwards. So it's better that you get into your mind now, even if it's not right away, if it's in 6 months, whatever it is, hiring is the only way to move forward. There are very few, if any, $10 million, $20 million businesses that are run by a solo person. It just doesn't happen. So once you're in the mentality that you have to hire, a lot of the times the next step is getting over the risk of hiring, right? Because everyone always thinks they're going to steal your information with Amazon. Maybe you get suspended for some reason.
Yeah. That's so
And
true in the Amazon like seller community. Like there's so much paranoia. Like, oh, I can't trust anybody with this. Only I can do this. Like I'm the only one that can handle this, be it talking to Amazon seller support or dealing with the finances and bookkeeping or whatever. Like you have this feeling, and I had this feeling of like, only I can handle this. Like this is not something I can pass off.
absolutely. And to be honest, I mean, I've been hiring remote workers for 8 years on my Amazon account. These people worked for other sellers. Free Up, we bill over 10,000 hours, over 11,000 hours every week. We've been doing this for 3+ years, thousands of sellers. I've yet to actually see that happen where someone gets suspended. I'm sure it's there. There's lots of rumors, and if you read blogs and seller forums, they're there. And I'm sure if we bill enough hours, eventually something will happen. That's just what the percentages say. And even if it's not a huge security thing, it could be someone's information, whatever it is. But the chances are a lot smaller than people think. And you have to remember that we're vetting these people really hard. It's tough to get in. We reject 99 at every 100 applicants. And once they're in, just like clients don't like having to go through 100 applicants, they don't really like competing against 100 people for every job. So they like it that we bring clients to them. They care a lot more about providing for their family and keeping a long-term relationship with you and their source of income than they do about jeopardizing your business in any way. So yes, there's always risk. Even if you hire your best friend to sit right next to you every day, there's always a chance that they do something stupid. But again, the risk is a lot smaller than a lot of Amazon sellers think. And hiring is the only way forward in your business. You have to be able to get over that fear.
Okay, so if I am that one-man show, how do I know that it's time to hire?
Sure, and keep in mind, I didn't just wake up one day and hire 20 people. It's a slow and gradual process that you build up. And just like you wouldn't do that, you also wouldn't just hire someone and hand them over your bank information and full login on day one. A lot of times you're building that relationship over time. So yeah, one of my favorite questions is, when's the right time to hire? And for me, it's pretty early. I talk about this in my book. If you're a solo operation, if you don't have the funding of a Shark Tank, because most of us don't, it's all about reinvesting back into your business. And that reinvestment has to start at a very young age. If you're still figuring out your business model, if you're still doing trial and error, if you haven't come up with a product to sell yet, you're probably not ready to hire. But if you have something in the market, if you're getting some sales, if you have some revenue coming in, there are effective ways you can hire without breaking your bank that can help you take that next step forward.
Even if you're selling like a low level, like.
Yeah, I mean, so there's 2 ways to hire. You're either taking stuff off your plate because you're so busy, you don't have enough hours in the day, you're not doing things that are high value like marketing, sales, expansion, and you're just stuck in that day-to-day stuff. And a lot of times those hires, they might come a little bit later. But the other way to hire is you hire for things you're not good at, turning weaknesses into strengths. And that has been so much of the key to my success. I know exactly what I'm good at. I know exactly what I'm bad at. And I'm bad at a lot more things that I'm good at. But I focus on the things I'm good at. Everything else I'm hiring for. And one of the activities that I recommend doing is Connor and I, back when we were first working together, it was probably year 4 or 5, we were having some success. We're kind of stepping on each other's toes a little bit. We were kind of managing the same people more than once, and we couldn't really figure out what we should be hiring for. So what we did is we sat outside on a balcony, and for an hour, being brutally honest, we went back and forth saying, hey, you're good at this, you're bad at this. And he would say, hey, Nate, you're a terrible writer. And I would say, hey, Connor, you think way too far into the future. You have to be focused on right now. So we just went back and forth. And at the end of this meeting, we had a list of things that we were both good at and bad at. And we realized that we complemented each other very well, which was great for our business partnership. We thought we could work together. But more importantly, we had a list of all these things we were bad at, yet we were still doing them over and over. So we were just investing our high value time in tasks that we knew we weren't going to do well. And once we started to figure that out and prioritize that list and start turning those weaknesses into strengths without us doing it, that's really what's accelerated our business.
That is awesome. That's an exercise that I want to engage in. That's you have to have balls though to do that.
You do.
To like look someone in the eye and be like, you suck at this, and then be able to take that too.
And
that's where the growth is.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that I now I only surround myself with freelancers, contractors, employees, business partners, even vendors. If they're my financial advisor or my accountant, I only surround myself with people that can take and give feedback. I want to be able to tell people exactly how it is, not in an asshole way, but be very direct. And they have to be able to take that and adjust, and vice versa. If I'm doing something wrong, I don't want my accountant to just say, hey, you're paying me. Like, hey, whatever you say is great. Yes, Nate. Yes, Nate. I want them to be like, Nate, you're messing up. Here's my direct feedback. And then I can take that and adjust. And it really goes both ways. It's such a valuable lesson that I learned early on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I totally agree with that. It's always I think that reminds me of the saying that like a man's or woman's success can be measured by the number of uncomfortable conversations they're willing to have.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And then we can switch into more Amazon. But one of the most uncomfortable conversations I ever had was an exit interview. And I don't know if you've ever done an exit interview, but there's only one kind. It's incredibly uncomfortable. You have someone that had quit on me after I invested a lot of time and energy into them. And I asked them for another hour of their time. And we sat across the table. I was pretty pissed at him for wasting my time. He obviously didn't like working with me. He didn't really want to be there. And I asked him for feedback. I said, I want to know why you left. What could I have done differently? And he went at me hard to the gut. Everything from how I was managing to how I was leading people to the culture that I had built to the other people in the office to my hiring process to begin with and how I was finding these people. And that's one of the things that kind of changed me in terms of just asking for feedback and ideas before people quit. So if you have a team, if you're hiring virtual assistants, freelancers, business partners, constantly be asking for feedback all the time. It is the best way to improve as a business owner.
Yeah, I love that, dude. That's a piece of gold that I need. I definitely much needed that reminder. Right on. So, okay, say I've recognized, yes, I need to hire for this or that. Maybe I'm running a one-man show. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm already at 10 people, but I just haven't made a higher level hire. So if you're at that next stage where you've hired, but only for administrative things, like things that you're bad at and you don't want to do, like customer service or bookkeeping or whatnot, but now you need to hire leadership. Can you just touch on that? Because I feel like that's another glass ceiling, and that's also something that I've dealt with, that's when it comes to like, you really have to, hire someone who, is like way smarter than you in this or that area or domain of expertise.
Absolutely. So a lot of big sellers that I work with, they eventually get to that point where they need a project manager. They have too many people, too much going on. It becomes very time consuming to talk and stay updated on all these things. And what you should be doing is focus on big things or big projects, but also assigning projects to other people. So when it becomes time to hire a project manager, the two things you want to focus on are what people are they going to be responsible for and what tasks are they going to be responsible for. Because a project manager is a very vague term. It's kind of like saying virtual assistant. That could mean 200 different things. You have to really define that. What am I looking for? And then beyond that, how many hours a week? There are some people that need 2 40-hour-a-week project managers, and there are some people that can get by with 20. Really define what your perfect project manager looks like. Now, when you're going to hire a project manager, the best ones always come from internal. If you have that resource, if you have someone on your team that has crushed it with you, you've built that trust, that relationship over time. A great example is at FreeUp, our freelancer success team, which is basically a recruitment team. They're constantly taking applicants, going through, interviewing them. The lady that runs that has been working with me for 7 years. She came from my Amazon business. I just saw her in the Philippines. I'm the godfather of one of her kids. We have a great relationship. And I was fortunate enough that I could promote from within and make her the team leader for that team, which is a very important team. For other things, such as accounting, I didn't have someone like that. I couldn't, and accounting is big with FreeUp because we're doing lots of different billings. For your Amazon business, it's probably not. But just as an example, I didn't have someone. So I had to go outside and find them and say, hey, okay, you're responsible for these 3 other VAs that all do a different part of the bookkeeping, but no one can do the full picture. And you're in charge of these tasks, billing clients every week, getting me a monthly report, working with our third-party payment providers, really breaking it down and recruiting for it, which can be difficult. And in your Amazon business, a lot of times this is operational, whether it's finding suppliers and dealing with that and the people that go underneath that for sourcing. It could be breaking down your listings into different groups for sellers that have 2,000 SKUs. Some of them will say, hey, you're responsible for these 500. You're managing this team. You're responsible for this 1,000. You're with this team. And it could even be marketing efforts, whether it's internal marketing like Amazon PPC or external, your brand, Facebook ads, all the stuff that goes with it, building a website. Having someone who can just be in charge of that is so important to really take your business to the next level. You can go from 0 to 1 million a solo person, maybe running some VAs, much tougher to get from 1 to 5 million without someone by your side really project managing.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's another glass ceiling, another fear that people have. Like after, passing off things and being able to trust other folks with your business and key roles in your business, I think the next ceiling is allowing people to come in who will lead as well and who will really take ownership for things and, not just clock in, clock out, but be, heart, mind, and soul in there too. So yeah, that's huge. Okay. Can we talk about pricing then? Because I think that's another big fear. Like I remember my thoughts when I was thinking about this was like, okay, yes, I need help, but like, do I really need someone like full time? How am I going to fill all their hours? Like, is that going to be another job just trying to fill their time? So, is that going to be a waste? So, I mean, at some of these different levels, like what can we expect to pay, for somebody, a remote worker?
And that's one of the coolest things about this gig economy, the remote workforce just taking off. And in the next 10 years, over 50% of the workforce is going to be remote. And there's just so many benefits from it. And one of them is you're not just limited to the talent around you. You now have access to talent all over the world. But another big one is that flexibility. If you need a graphic designer for 5 hours, and you don't need to hire someone full time. If you need a VA just in the mornings, you can hire someone just in the mornings. And with FreeUp, we really accommodate that where you can put in a request, hey, I need someone 10 hours a week with this availability. And we only introduce you to people who want that. So it makes it easier and it's definitely possible. As far as pricing, we tried to break it down into 3 levels. And this really applies for everyone, not just FreeUp. You got basic level, mid-level, and expert level. For basic level, you're in that $10 and below range, usually non-US. These people are followers. They're for clients that have their systems and processes in place. They probably have years of experience because for us, we're not a marketplace for newbies. But the way that you do something, Chris, is probably not the same way that I do something on my Amazon business. So you need to hire someone who can follow your systems, your processes. And that's really where you get that person getting out of your day-to-day operations. And it's very affordable. And the better and easier that your day-to-day operations are, your processes, the cheaper that person can be. We've all heard McDonald's and how everyone is replaceable because their systems and processes are just so in line. And that's really the ideal goal for your Amazon business. With the mid-level people, they're a lot more specialized. They might be a graphic designer. They write listings. They do bookkeeping. They do the same thing 8 to 10 hours every day. You're not hiring them to teach them. You're not hiring them to consult with you. They're really the doers. And those can be more project-based. You can keep 2 graphic designers in your Rolodex. And whenever you have a project, reach out to them and see who can get it done first. You can have your bookkeeper who does it once a quarter or once a month. And some people might need it more. We have clients who will have a lister on 20 hours every week. But there's more specialists. And then for that last list we talked about, the turning weaknesses into strengths, that's where the experts come in, that 20 and up. And those are people that have 5, 10, 15 years of experience. They can consult with you. They can audit your business or parts of your business. They can project manage that we just talked about. They can help you create those systems and processes for the basic level freelancers. So depending on where you are in your business, you got to figure out, hey, am I looking for that basic, the mid, or the expert level? And a lot of times the best teams are combinations of all 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So can we get a range for actual numbers for those different levels there?
the basic level usually in the $5 to $10 an hour range. The mid level is in that 10 to 30 range, and the expert level, if it's non-US, they're usually in that 15 to 40 range. If they're US, they're usually in that 25 to 50 range.
Okay, word. That makes sense. Okay, right on. That's very straightforward. Sweet. Okay, so once you establish that you need these people and you are ready to make the jump and you make the hire, how do you onboard the person, or how much time can I expect to invest in this person before they start actually producing results?
Yeah, and this is where most people mess up. I'll get clients that have come to me and they say, hey, I really need to use FreeUp. I had this VA I hired from wherever. I've had them for 2 months and they're just not working out. Like, what would you do if you were me? Like, what would you do in this situation? And say, first of all, the thing is, no one ever works for me for 2 months before I figure out they're not a good fit. that just doesn't happen anymore. It happened when I was a younger entrepreneur, but I spend a lot of time up front from after the hire to when I actually am full-fledged invested in them, because I know that hiring is an investment and you need to look at it like that. You don't just hire someone and say, hey, do all the listings on my Amazon store. That's probably not the best way to go forward. You want to set expectations. You want to give them a test. We have a free client expectations doc that you can get on the FreeUp blog. And it's a piece of paper that you can fill out that says, hey, this is who you contact for what. These are my pet peeves. This is what's expected out of you. This is your schedule, whatever it is, so that you can get on the same page right from the beginning. The last thing you want to do is invest time into someone and then find out a few weeks later that the expectations are not the same. They want something that you don't want, or vice versa. Much easier to do that from the beginning. And then you always want to test someone out. If you're hiring someone to build your website, have them do a page first. If it's an Amazon listing, have them optimize a listing. And then the feedback loop kicks in. Give them feedback on their work, because very few times do I hire someone and first try on the first task I give them, they do it 100% exactly the way I want it. Maybe they do 93%, and that's great. But I give them that feedback to see, one, can they actually do it 100%? Because I want to hire people that can. But two, can they actually take my feedback? Because I mentioned how important that is for me. So set that expectations, give them a test, and then start that feedback loop right at the beginning, early on. Give them a chance to prove themselves, and then decide whether they're someone that you're going to invest your time, your energy, and your money into going forward. And if it's not, cut bait. Yes, you might have lost a little bit of time and money up front, but it's going to be a much better investment for you to find someone that's a better fit.
Dude, that's great. Again, that's gold. And also a reminder that I needed. But I have a question for you, just like a personal question, just to get your take on this. Because this is something that I battle with sometimes. So I remember when I first dug into managing and the science of management, a book that my old boss, when I was working in solar, gave me was called The 1 Minute Manager. And it's a really short book. It's like a 2-hour read. I don't know if you ever read it.
I have not. I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah, no, it's a great book because it's told as a story, which makes it much more memorable to the human mind than like a straight up like instruction manual. So it's told like a story, but it's actually a really famous management book, and it's only a 2-hour read. Like you could literally flip through the whole thing in 2 hours. But the whole basic premise of it is that management can be distilled down to positive feedback and negative feedback. And that's pretty much it. That's the point of the whole book. And you really have to read it to like have it sink in, and that's the purpose of it. But if you were to say it in one sentence, it's that. So to me, I always wonder if I'm flirting the right line between positive and negative feedback, because it's true. Like everyone wants to be told they're doing a good job when they've tried really hard to create something or to complete something and they did it well. And I mean, at their core, I think most people also want to know when they're not doing well, so they're not wasting their time and they're not doing something, not just spinning their wheels essentially. But for me personally, being that I'm kind of the lovey hippie type, my hair, if I let it down, you'd see it's down to my nipples. I'm much more prone to the positive feedback. Like I really like pumping people up. I like my team to feel good. I like my employees to feel accomplished. But then the negative feedback, I'm more apt to let things slide because I don't want to make people feel bad. And I think that's a fault of mine. So I just want to ask you, in your own business, how much time are you spending giving people positive feedback for things they do right versus negative feedback for things that they could have done better?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like I came from the opposite end. Back when I started my first business, I was much quicker to give people negative feedback than positive because I was type A. I wanted stuff done my way, exactly how it was. And if they didn't do it, they would hear from me instantly. If I got back from vacation and XYZ wasn't done, instead of saying, hey, thanks for covering for me, I would say, why didn't you do these things? And I've kind of adjusted the other way. And I also have clients who, after they've made that hire, let's say the freelancer does that 93%, and instead of doing that feedback loop, they'll message me and they'll say, ooh, I don't know what to do here. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to make them not like me anymore. And
exactly.
My response is always treat them like a professional. They're a professional. You're a professional. Tell them the way it is. But what it comes down to is I establish, now I'm on your side. You're on my team. I want you to succeed. That is the common goal that we both have. Now, in order to succeed, these are the things that we have to change. And that's the approach that I've kind of learned over the years, because sometimes just dealing with different cultures, dealing with people in the Philippines. I remember when I first hired people from the Philippines, they didn't love my directness because I'm a straight shooter to the point.
Mm-hmm.
So just by establishing, hey, like, we're on the same side. I don't hate you. There's nothing personal here. But these are the things we have to change, is usually a much better approach than just lashing out on someone. But I'll argue that if you don't give people that bad feedback, it almost always blows up in your face at some point down the line in one way or another, because I've seen situations where clients don't give that feedback and they let the person go on and on and on down that path. And from the person's side, they thought they were doing everything right. And then it gets to the end and the client freaks out or blows up and says, you're doing an awful job. And the freelancer has no idea why, because they've just been getting all this positive feedback as they go. So I would definitely be direct, but there is the right way to go about it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and that's so true. It's for everyone's good. Like, why would you not want to grow as an individual as being part of the team? Like, the team should grow as a part of you being part of it, and you should grow as through being part of the team. So if you don't get that negative feedback or that critical feedback, you can't grow.
Yeah.
So,
and one last part I'll add to that. If you work with, let's say, a virtual assistant and you give them feedback, and assuming you're not an asshole about it and you do it in the right way, and they don't take it well, and you can see they took it personally, you probably don't want to work with that person. It's not going to work out well.
Yeah. So true, dude. I've had that exact same experience where someone just takes anything that's not positive, anything that's critical, very personally and emotionally. And, I think that's kind of a red flag, to be honest. I've learned that the hard way many times, and probably will learn it a couple more times before it really sinks in. But yeah, okay, sweet. So I think one thing that I would want to know and would love to hear from you is a little bit more about the process. Now I know, so FreeUp has its own process, but maybe just stepping back and in general, giving people advice about the process of hiring, specifically, what to do during an interview and how many people to interview. Like, I remember when I started, I was like, do I interview everyone, or do I only interview like the best, or can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk to that, and I'm also gonna throw FreeUp in the middle of it just because it applies. So the first thing you do before you hire is you have to come up with those two lists: the list of the day-to-day stuff you got to take off your plate, and the weaknesses that you have to turn into strengths. And you don't want to hire for everything at once. You want to prioritize, take the easiest things off your day-to-day plate, things that you're providing the least value to the business, and then the biggest weaknesses that you can turn into strengths, or that you can afford to turn into strengths. So once you have those lists, the next step that a lot of people miss is identify what your perfect person looks like. And if you're using a service like FreeUp, I promise you, if you don't know what it looks like, we don't know what it looks like either. You really have to define it. Is it part-time? Is it full-time? Is it US? Is it non-US? Is your budget $10 an hour or $25 an hour? Do you need them to work weekends? Do they have to be able to talk voice on the phone to you? Is accent important? Really define what your ideal person looks like. If you're using FreeUp, you would take that and put that into a worker request. If you're not, you would post it online. In terms of interviewing how many people, FreeUp, we send 1 to 3 because we usually have a very good idea of what people want from that request. We have these pool of people we've already vetted. Outside, it's the luck of the draw. You might find the right person on the first try, and then you might have to go through 50 applicants. But don't stop looking until you find the person that's the exact right fit for you. That person's out there, and that's really why we created FreeUp, keeping in mind even the best virtual assistants in the world are not the best fit for every single client in the world. So you really want to define what that perfect person looks like for you. Now, for interview, keep in mind with FreeUp, we do a lot of that for you up front, and you're really figuring out, are they the right person for me in that 10 to 15 minute interview? But if you're going to interview on your own, focus on skill, attitude, and communication. And too many people, they just focus on skill. They say, hey, this person has a great resume, he has references, he's talented, and then they hire him and it doesn't work out and they wonder why. And that's because you're not focused on the attitude and the communication. For attitude, I want people who are passionate about what they do. If I hate bookkeeping and I hire a bookkeeper, they have to love bookkeeping as much as I love being an entrepreneur. They have to show up every day with a smile on their face. They have to care about my business like it's their own. Focus on the attitude. And with communication, especially if you're dealing with international workers, do they speak English at a high level? Do you have to chase them? Are they fast to reply? Can they hit estimates? Can they hit due dates? Is the actual communication at a high level? Because I don't care how talented you are or what your attitude is. If you and I can't communicate, it's never going to work out. So that's really what your interview focus should be on. And then after the interview, you really jump into what we talked about before, the setting expectations, the giving a test task, and then jumping into that feedback loop.
Totally. Yeah, I would even go so far as to say from my own experience that attitude is before the skill. And I mean, and of course there's things that you're literally hiring a skill, like bookkeeping is one example. Like it's literally a very specific skill. But I mean, I would say even for specific skills, I would choose the person who had the good attitude and the medium skill set than the amazing skill set, but the bad attitude any day. And I would say that looking back at the hires that have ended up not being good fits or have been mistakes, it's always been that they weren't the culture fit or didn't have the right attitude. Versus I've definitely had hires that were amazing attitude and motivation and their skills had a ways to go, but they just literally stepped up to the challenge and learned what they needed to learn to get there because they were so fucking motivated and so passionate and so hard, really put their heart into what they do. So I've learned to test for that, and I still haven't gotten it down pat. And I'm sure that you're much better at this than me since it's your whole job. But I found one thing that helps for me is we do 3 reference interviews for every single person that we hire. And it takes a lot of time, but it ends up being so fucking worth it because you find out things that you could never find out from talking to the person. You wouldn't think that because people are going to give references that, would only say good things about them, you would think. But if I found that if you phrase it in the right way, you can actually tease out the truth, despite the fact that they're probably trying to pump the person up if you ask the right questions. And we always do reference interviews from people who were managing that person or working directly with that person in a previous job. That's a little tip that I took from a book called Who that was specifically on hiring when I was going through this whole journey myself on okay, how can I get amazing at hiring? And those 3 reference interviews completely changed the way that we make decisions.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it is one of those things. A lot of times you won't really know if they're a fit until you start working with them. And that's one of the things I've kind of learned. I mean, I've seen both sides. I've had someone who I've done the references and they worked out great. And I thought they had all 3 and they got into my office and it was awful. And vice versa. I've had people where I was right before busy season. It was crunch time. I needed someone to do customer service. and I hired someone that I was kind of on the edge, and they've been with me for 6+ years, and they were probably one of the best hires I've ever made. So sometimes you never really know. And the other things is you don't know what their company culture was like that they came from. You don't know what that manager was like. You don't know all the responsibilities that they were doing. There's so many factors and so many variables. It's almost like baseball. You have to, if you hit the ball right on the line and someone catches it, you don't necessarily change the process. You might tweak it a little bit, but you want to focus on your system, your process, improving it. And no one has 100% hiring record. It just doesn't happen. But you have to continue to make sure that you still get in the mentality that you have to hire, but focus on the parts that you can control.
Yeah, dude. So true. I mean, just like with anything, honestly, self-observation is the key to improvement. Self-observation and then action is the key to improving on anything. And then, like you said, one big way to self-observe is to use another person as a mirror and to have them give you feedback. That's just another way to self-observe. But as long as you keep track of how your process is and what results that brought so that you can constantly tweak it, you're always going to get better, not just with hiring, but like literally everything. Yeah. But hiring is so like, this is one of the reasons why, like when you reached out to me on Facebook, I was like, oh yes, not just because we already had recommended FreeUp as one of our like top tools that we presented on a couple months back, but also because I've just learned that, you know, in my business adventures throughout my professional life, I think literally the two main skills that if I could distill, you know, success down to are the ability to see opportunities before other people do, or even while other people do, but to kind of see the matrix and understand where the holes are, like what could be created that would provide value in this particular ecosystem that I'm looking in. And that's a whole science in and of itself. But then assembling the team that can properly exploit that opportunity. If you could do both of those things and motivate those people to do a good job and to work together to solve that problem or to whatever it takes to exploit that opportunity, that's literally it. That's like the whole picture right there. So this is like 50% of the entire picture to me. So super important stuff.
I completely agree. I mean, just the motivation that you said is so important. Even last night, I recorded a 2-minute video that I sent out to the 1,000 freelancers on the marketplace, just thanking them, showing that I appreciate them, that I don't spend all day dealing with client issues because they do an incredible job. And I didn't have to do that. The video was very authentic. I did mean it. But there's a motivational factor on top of it. I know that people want that recognition. They want to know that I see the work that they're doing and I appreciate it. And that's going to go a long way going forward. And it builds trust. It makes it so they can come to me if they are having an issue, because they know that I'm on their side. I'm working with them. It's not me versus them. And I can't tell you how many clients create that atmosphere where it's you versus me and we're not working on this together, which is really toxic. So yeah, the motivation is huge. The opportunities, I totally agree with. I always tell Connor, every day I'm just looking for new opportunities, new trials and errors, things I can test out. And then I need a team of people with my back that will test it out in the highest possible way. And that's really where the motivation comes in as well.
Totally, dude. Yeah. All right. So one of these things that you specifically asked me to have you address is, and I think this is a great one, very practical, the top 5 Amazon freelancers that all sellers can start out with.
Absolutely. So I would say one of the biggest ones is graphic design. There are very few Amazon sellers out there that are also good graphic designers. And you'd be surprised.
Many of them think they are.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you'd be surprised how many think they are. Hire a graphic designer. A lot of times it's not even ongoing work, although I have plenty of clients where it is. Get it done right the first time. It's going to lead to more conversions. You're going to spend less of your time on it. Take it off your plate. It's one of the first things you should do. The next thing that I'll say is listing. I would say that there are a lot of different types of Amazon sellers. There are people that love the sourcing, love the finding products, but they're not really all in on the marketing and getting it out. Yes, they want it to sell, but they don't know the best way to do it. And a lot of times you have to hire someone who knows Amazon algorithm, stays up to date with it, is a really good writer. I mean, I'm a terrible writer. I have Connor write almost all the content for FreeUp, if not all of it, because I've recognized that as a weakness. And the same thing for clients, Amazon businesses, you can hire a really good lister to come in and do that. The next thing I would say is the translations. There are so many missed opportunities for Amazon sellers that are not taking their products internationally. And while we have bookkeepers and people that can help with that and all that, there's also that translation side and strong, good translations that people that actually know Amazon and people a lot of times miss out on that, or they'll kind of cheap out where it comes to the translations, and it can really hurt them long term. Another one is PPC campaigns. A lot of people that I work with, and me included, even if I think of it in terms of Facebook ads, yes, I could spend the next 6 months learning Amazon PPC, the next 6 months learning Facebook ads, and I'm pretty confident, I'm a smart guy, I could figure it out and be a really good person at it. Not the best use of my time. I'd much rather come in and hire an expert and do it at a high level right from the beginning. I think there's 4. One last one that is just very common that a lot of people don't think about is just an expert in your back pocket. We all know with Amazon, there are so many issues that just pop up, whether it's a listing suppression, suspended account, or just a suspended listing, whatever it is, there's all these things that can drive you nuts. I've seen clients that just spend days working on these flat files, trying to get something to go through. They hire an expert. Yes, maybe it costs you $50 for an hour or two. They fix it and you move on with your day. It's so awesome when you can just have that expert in your Rolodex that you can just go to whenever something comes up. Yes, it's on the expensive side, but a lot of times it's short term and it'll save you so much time and energy going forward.
Okay, so wait, tell me more about this expert one. So all right. So you got the graphic designer, you said you got the listing optimizer, you said you the Facebook ads person, the PPC person, and then you said the Amazon expert. Oh, and translations. Oh, okay, so that was 6 then.
No, the Facebook ads was just an example. PPC
Facebook ads was an example. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Translation for expanding abroad. And then the expert. I want to hear more about the expert. That's something I never thought that could be a freelance type of deal.
Yeah, I mean, we have 100+ Amazon expert freelancers on the FreeUp marketplace. And yeah, they've got plenty of clients that need a lot of work done that they're constantly working with. But it's also in their best interest to continue building their Rolodex of clients. So it's great to meet one and have one in your back pocket. If you're a newer seller, maybe you're using them for 2 hours a week to consult. Maybe when you just launched that great product, you hire that expert to optimize the listing, whatever it is. But you can also keep them in your back pocket for when stuff goes wrong. And one of the cool things about FreeUp is we're all about speed, as you can tell from how I talk. So when you put in a worker request, we fill that fast. So if you're having an issue, just having a FreeUp account is great because you can put in a request. We'll introduce you to someone quickly. They'll be able to problem solve. They will have had that experience before if we're introducing them. And instead of spending a week trying to fix an issue, you can get it done the same day. So it's a great thing to have, especially in e-commerce, especially in Amazon, because we all know how crazy it can get.
What are the major things that they could do? Like when would I be like, oh, I need an Amazon expert? Like,
sure. So we've had situations where listings get suppressed. We've had situations where products get merged, or people are really struggling with flat files. Amazon's not accepting them for some reason. We've had issues where you had to call into seller support and get someone on the line, and that could take 2 hours to get the right person, but it might be better to have an expert actually make that call to actually get you exactly what you need in order to move forward. There's so many types of things. You never really know what's going to come in. We've had people with suspended accounts. We've had people that have had competitors and help with like brand gating and all that. There's so many different facets of Amazon, and you never know what's going to happen. You're really crossing your fingers because you could wake up one day and have some of your best products have issues with that.
So true. Yeah, it's freaking nerve-wracking. And like Amazon can just change like on a dime. Like they'll just all of a sudden something that you've been doing for years is now totally faux pas and you're suspended and your big money maker is just completely turned off. That faucet just turns off. I know so many people that's happened to, and it's happened to myself, not to that extreme of a degree, but But yeah, that's a scary place to be in. It's good to know that that's possible, because
It's also
that's
about
something
peace
that,
of mind. Even if 99% of the time nothing happens, just having that expert in your back pocket, knowing that, hey, if I have a big issue, I have this guy's phone number and I can call them directly, is huge as an entrepreneur, as we both know.
yeah, exactly. Just knowing that there's an option, that you're not just totally fucked if that happens.
Exactly.
Word. Okay, sweet. Well, I do want to leave a little bit of time for Q&A before we you know, divulge a little bit more and direct people to where they could find out more information about this stuff. But I think there's a couple things that we didn't touch on that I really wanted to hear about. Okay. All right. So this is something that you did start to touch on, but in general, the difference between hiring freelancers and hiring in-house employees. When should I be looking at freelancers? When should I be looking at hiring an in-house full-time employee?
Sure. So I always see Facebook posts and they're like, oh, you shouldn't outsource this. You shouldn't hire a freelancer for this. And usually I respond back saying that I do it. And I really practice what I preach. My freelancers billed me about 758 hours last week. So I really use a lot of freelancers. I have no employees, no in-house employees for free up. I have no office, entirely remote. So I know it can be done.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
entirely remote. I opened up an office for my Amazon business, and I actually got rid of it because I was adding overhead for no reason. A lot of the stuff that I thought was going to happen, where the culture was better by having people in place, actually led to drama and stuff that I didn't want to deal with, and I enjoyed it. And I also thought that I kind of built a 9-to-5 job for myself, that I was going into the office, and I wanted to get back to that flexibility. But a good friend of mine, Will Mitchell, no, he always says that the in-house employees are there to take over something. If, let's say, you want them to take over content or take over your Europe account. And I kind of disagree with him, because I have freelancers that do the same thing. And with the gig economy booming at how it is, I mentioned over 50% of the workforce is going to be remote. There's really nothing that you can't get done remote, unless it's a warehouse. I see you have a big warehouse in the back. If you need someone packaging, or you need a janitor, or you need someone local for some reason, maybe photographer, whatever it is, that stuff can be in-house. And sometimes there's benefits for if you want someone that's only working for you and not someone else. But if you're okay with someone that can be flexible, that can have other clients on the side, there's really nothing that can't be freelanced at this point.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, but what about the full-time remote people?
Yeah, so I mean, we have clients that'll hire 5 people in the Philippines full time to do customer service, and they've had the same people for 3 years. So those definitely do happen. The thing about the freelancers is you can't restrict that. So if they want to pick up a client on the weekends, you have to be okay with that. So that's one of the things with Free Up. We make it clear with clients that there's no exclusivity. You can buy them out, and that's another option we don't have to talk about. But that's really the main difference. If you want someone that's just yours, that's local, then the in-house employee makes a lot of sense.
Word. Yeah, definitely. Of course, there are a couple things that you would need someone for in person, like you said, a warehouse manager or something like that. They have to actually be there picking up things and moving them to other places. But we live in a world where most of the work is done right here on your computer. So there's really no. Yeah, I agree. I mean, our judo is completely remote as well. We are a team of 16, like full-time people, but everybody is completely remote. Like our graphic designer, Joseph, is now embarking on an epic, like cross European trip that he doesn't plan to ever come back from. He's just going full nomad, like totally committing to the life. Mia, our head of content, she's just, every time I talk to her, I feel like she's in a different country right now. She's in Bali. She's posting pictures on our Slack, making everyone jealous of jumping into a pool that's like in the middle of her like tropical co-working space called Outpost. Or she's at Dojo. Actually, Dojo is a very cool co-working space in Bali. But yeah, I totally agree, dude. I love this life. It's freaking awesome that this stuff is possible. Okay, sweet. All right. Oh, fuck. Actually, I kind of rolled over the questions period. You know, why don't we do this? If anybody has questions, just type them into the comments right now in YouTube. underneath the video, or actually beside the video. Meanwhile, Nathan's going to do a quick screen share for just a couple minutes and show us what the platform looks like and how it works.
Cool. Let's see if I can screen share this. All right, how do I screen share? There we go.
I might be able to force it on you. Oh yeah, there we go.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So with FreeUp, it's pretty easy. You go to freeup.com with 3 E's, click become a client. It'll take you to the sign up. Once you create an account, put your information, click create, it'll take you to your dashboard. This is a brand new dashboard. There's no freelancers in it right now. Whenever you need a freelancer, you click request a worker. It'll ask you for some questions. As you can see, the skill set, US, non-US, describe the project, price range broken out, just like we talked about, short-term, medium, long-term, what kind of scheduling, what do they need them on weekends? You need microphone. How quickly do you need it? How quickly is the project due? You click submit. It's moved over to your open worker request tab. As you can see it, one right here that was a sample we filled out. And then once we introduce you to a freelancer, they'll appear right here. You'll be able to see their full contact information. You can meet with them, interview them, decide if you like them. If you like them, you click hire right here and you're good to go. If you don't like them, you click pass. You provide us some feedback so we know why you passed, and we send you some other options. If you're someone that likes to interview a lot of people, you can always click request another freelancer and we'll send you more. And if you fill the project, or let's say you decide you don't want to hire for it, you can just click close and that's it. All the billing is done right through here. You would add a payment method on the payment dashboard page. Here, if there were freelancers, you'd be able to see, let me see if I can go back one. You'd be able to see all the hours they worked, just like this, broken down. So you can see how much you're spending per day, per week. Our billing periods are Wednesday to Tuesday. Charge you every Thursday. You have a week to dispute anything before we pay the freelancer the following Thursday. So it's very simple, all right there for you in your FreeUp account.
Right on. That's awesome. You guys have a blog as well, you said, right?
Yeah, if you go to freeup.com/blog, we're always posting up-to-date hiring tips, best practices, stuff that we actually use. We practice what we preach, and a lot of stuff about e-commerce as well. So definitely check out the FreeUp blog. We also have a lot of free resources. I mentioned the client expectations doc, along with other stuff that's really there to help you.
Awesome, man. I'm sure a bunch of this blog stuff got into the book, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the book is just based on our own experiences. That's the only thing we write about is stuff that we've actually done and the things that we've learned along the way, because we want to help other people learn them faster than we did.
Oh, you wrote it with Scott?
No. I didn't say that. I think you misheard me.
Oh,
I wrote it with Connor.
Oh, sorry, Connor. I meant Connor. I just called him Scott.
Yeah, Connor.
Cool. Okay, cool. So it was both of you guys. That's awesome. Yeah, actually, you and I have to talk after this about the process of writing an ebook and releasing that, because I think that's a really interesting kind of strategy. I was talking to a growth hacker here at SOSV, the accelerator that we're in right now, and he actually told us, like, you guys need to write an ebook with all this content you've been generating. Just write it. And I was like, wow, I never thought of that. So
yeah,
I
we have
gotta
a
pick
few. They don't take that long. We have one called the 10 common most mistakes of outsourcing. We have another one called 100 things to outsource. I agree. Definitely great content.
It's been worth it for you?
Definitely.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah, dude, I got to ask you about that after this. That's really interesting to me. But that's besides the point, besides the hiring point. Cool. All right.
Back to you.
Yeah, thank you for doing that walkthrough. That's awesome. It's the fact that you could do that in like 2 minutes just shows that that's, a pretty simple process. So now I'm going to do a screen share and show you guys a little bit about one of Judolaunch's relevant services. So let me know if you can see me. Oh, there we go. Is this coming through?
Yep.
All right, awesome. Okay, so this, I view this as when someone's not ready to actually make a hire, but they still want to automate some of those pain points. So Judo Ops, basically, we released it specifically originally for the Amazon European market. Because the thing about Amazon Europe is that you're required to give customer service in all of the native languages in that native language. So just Google translating doesn't cut it. That's against terms of service. You have to provide native customer service. So if someone wants to be live on like all 5 European marketplaces, Germany, the UK, France, Italy, and Spain, that's 5 languages you have to worry about customer service for. So we basically built a system that integrates customer service, listing translation and optimization, VAT invoicing, return and refund management, seller support communication, and feedback monitoring and commenting all in one, but without hiring anybody. It's a service, not a person. So you get one point of contact who's like your dedicated account manager assigned to you. Meanwhile, they are managing the entire team of each language specialist to do the customer support, to do the listing optimization and translation, and you never have to see any of that. It just kind of happens automatically. This is Maria, my good friend and employee Maria. She's a real account manager here at Judo. We put her beautiful face on the website so you can see that these are human beings that you're actually talking to, although they are still our employees, not yours. So if you're not ready to make the jump, this is one, way to kind of go the in-between route. All you have to do is put in your information, and it's basically, much less expensive than it would be to hire people for all of these things at once. This is a monthly subscription for a service, not a person, but there are people behind the screen pushing the buttons, pulling the levers. So we actually created a special offer for people who came on this webinar, and you will get the link to that in the follow-up email to this webinar if you attended. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested in that. I'm going to stop sharing now, get back to our handsome faces. Hey, we're right on time, dude. Look at this.
Yeah, and FreeUp is going to have an offer as well that we'll send out.
Excellent. Excellent, man. Cool. All right, so that's it. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Nathan, awesome chatting with you. I'm serious. I really want to hear about your ebook experience because that's something that I've just been thinking about today all day, actually. And yeah, man, you and I got to get together and think about some new possibilities beyond this webinar, because I think we got a lot of potential fusion between us.
Definitely. I look forward to working with you guys long term. It should be fun.
Yeah, for sure. All right, right on. Thanks, everybody. Peace out.